And away we go. So, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, wherever you happen to be in the world today. Welcome, one and all, to Coffee Talk. That's right, it's time for Coffee Talk, where we will be having a discussion about the news and what's going on in the world today. And it will be loaded with opinion because I've got a lot of them. And it is what it is. I like to point out hypocrisy and point out the obvious and showcase it as we peruse through some of the news articles that we will read through today. And of course, this is Coffee Talk again on YouTube. And you can find me on YouTube at Coffee Talk Chat or at Prepper University, being simultaneously broadcast on both channels at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Monday through Friday, as well as at Coffee Talk Live on X, formerly known as Twitter. I don't think I can see any of the comments from there, but I can see the comments from Prep University and Coffee Talk, and I do read through as many of them as is reasonable. So those of you who are listening and not able to see can keep up with what's going on. And of course, there's always Fistful of Radio, fistfulofradio.com, podcasting out of Atlanta Monday through Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and Friday at noon. And I'll go ahead and acknowledge some of the people that have chimed in on the live portion thus far. I see Donna Beaver is here, who asks everybody to thumbs up, like, and share. Thank you very much, Donna. Helter is here. Dragon is here. Brian is here. Dilo is here. And Jamaican Omen is here as well so far. And so is Dusty. You can all see I'm basically wearing Dusty as a scarf for the moment because she was whining and whining and whining for attention. And so here she is. Here she is. What are you going to do? I've got 3 felines in the office at the moment. Dusty, her brother Daniel, and then, of course, Uncle, the tuxedo cat, is sitting over in the corner as we get ready to dive in. Hi. As we get ready to dive into what is going on in the news here today. I will try to, because she is being very, very clingy and distracting at the moment. And we may as well start in South America. Anybody want to go to South America? I don't even think I would want to go there as a tourist at this point. But there you go. And this is a Fox News article. I see Urban Cowboy. Urban Angst has joined us here today. Urban Cowboy, interesting film, tragic ending. Chaos and violence in South America, or South American country, fuels massive rise in illegal migration to the U.S. You mean to tell me that some of the people coming across the southern border might actually be from South America at some point in the near future? Do tell. Do tell. I want to see. Escalating violence in a once peaceful Ecuador has sparked concerns of a significant rise in migration to the U.S. as the South American country has been rocked by blasts, prison takeovers, and mafia activity. Thousands of Ecuadorians feel like they have no option but to seek refuge elsewhere. Let them go to Mexico. In the aftermath of the C virus pandemic and the current uptick of disorder, many Ecuadorians have been fleeing the country of 4 worlds. According to the Migration Policy Institute, the most common destination for Ecuadorians is, you guessed it, the United States, accounting for 41% of immigrants. The nonpartisan think tank notes that the most recent exodus has been catalyzed by an escalation in domestic insecurity. Insecurity, that's another one of those words I'm getting real sick and tired of hearing. Everything's insecure. Oh, we have voting insecurity. We have food insecurity. Shut up. Anyways, tucked away between major cocaine-producing countries, Ecuador has been grappling with an alarming rise in gang activity. The increased presence of Mexican and Colombian cartels has rapidly destabilized the country. The situation escalated when more than a dozen armed men invaded a local television station's live broadcast earlier this month. As simmering tensions have boiled over, Ecuador's government has declared an all-out war on more than 20,000 criminals. I'd hate to say it, it's going to be an unpopular opinion with a lot of people. If you really want to get rid of them, you're going to have to dispose of them. You can't just keep putting them in prisons so that people can break them out. And this right here, for those of you who can see, is the film footage of the takeover at the news station. Someone filming it off of their television, basically, is what that is. But yeah, they took over a TV station. I'm not quite sure why that happened. It didn't work out very well for the so-called terrorists, however, did it, Dusty? Dusty doesn't think so. So I'll catch up a couple of comments here really quick. Tyrannicide just says, does anyone else hear a high-pitched ring in the background? I really want to watch, but it's kind of freaking my dog out. Anyone else here hearing anything? All People says, looks like the CIA has created more foreign disorder and lead for citizens to the U.S. to get voters for the Democrats. And now Tyrannicide says the ring has gone away. That's just ScrewTube messing with you. Urban says trafficked humans are the new cartel currency. And Bingo is here. Glad you could make it, Bingo. I don't know. Does anyone else hear a ring? Tyrannicide says he hears a ring in the background. But yeah, I'll just be, you want to get down? Go ahead. Go on, Dusty. Dusty has left the building. She's probably going to that chair. I'll shake the fur off. So basically what they're telling me is that we're going to be actually seeing an influx of legitimate South Americans coming across the border here anytime soon. It'd be a nice change of pace from what we've been dealing with. At least they're willing to work. I'll give them that much. Urban says the audio is fine. Dragon says the judges that continue to release these criminals are a key part of the problem. This is a bad omen for Ecuador. Well, you know, a lot of those judges are taking bribes or on the take. You know what I mean? They're working with the cartels, or they're taking bribes from the cartels, or they've been threatened by the cartels. You need to eliminate that problem to get them to function ethically, or find judges that are willing to be ethical and guarantee their protection. Helter says when they lived in Ecuador 10 years ago, it was one of the safest countries in Latin America. Since Korea left office, it has become deadly and dangerous. And that is unfortunate. That is very unfortunate that that's the way that that is working out for Ecuador. As we move around here, because, you know, they're going to come to the border and they're going to be ushered right in, as we read even yesterday, Kamala Harris, the quote border czar, stating that we need to make it easier for them to become citizens. I guess if you just cross the border, you're a citizen, is her suggestion for solving the border crisis. Then everybody will come. Where we've already got way too many people coming across the border as it is, without making it even easier. We had a process by which people could legally become citizens and enter the country, and it's not being adhered to because the Biden administration and the current executive branch in the U.S. government has made an open door policy. Basically, has made it an open door policy. All People says agreed. The nice thing about Latinos is that unlike so many of the Caribbeans, Africans, Muslims, the Latinos tend to have a super strong work ethic. Yeah, like I said, you know, okay, you know for a fact, because you can see it every day in the news, our northern and southern border, there is a flood of people coming through. The majority of them are from the Middle East, from Africa, and from parts of Asia, mostly China now, okay? And I will throw it out there, and I said this yesterday. When's the last time you saw a group of Muslims on a roof slinging tiles? When is the last time you saw a group of Africans or Chinese people doing landscaping? How many Muslims do you see standing around at the Home Depot at 6 o'clock in the morning looking for pickup work? They all from South America. Anytime you see siding coming off a house, anytime you see a landscaping project being done, somebody needs a tree pulled down, they're all from somewhere in South America. At least they'll do a job. At least they'll work. Even if it is under the table, at least they'll freaking work. I don't see groups of people from New Guinea or Nigeria or anywhere else doing landscaping projects or pulling the siding off of a house. Do you? How many groups of Chinese men do you see standing around in front of Lowe's at 5 a.m. willing to pave your driveway? I know somebody's going to be offended, but tough. That's too bad. That's too bad. But you know, dear old, sweet old, lovable old, reliable old, honest old, read me a bedtime story old Uncle Joe. He admits it now, though. He's willing to admit it. Article from State of the Union. Biden admits the southern border is not secure, but says to give him the money. Show me the money. Show me the money. There he is. That's not too unflattering of a photograph. Most of the pictures, the still shots they take of him, he looks crazy. That's not too bad. President Joe Biden admitted that the U.S. southern border is not secure. Oh, it's only taken him like 3 years, acknowledging the catastrophic surges in illegal immigration due to his policies. When asked about the impeachment of Department of Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas, Biden responded that he did not believe it was unconstitutional. He also stated that he has not believed the border was secure for the last 10 years and requested more resources to address the situation. What do you say to Republicans who are trying to impeach Mayorkas? One reporter asked. I don't get it, Biden said. Don't get what? What don't you understand about that question? Do you think it's unconstitutional, the reporter pressed? Do you think that the border is secure? No, it's not, Biden said. I haven't believed that for the last 10 years, and I've said it for the last 10 years. Give me the money. What money? The border was not this bad before you took office. The border was not this bad before Biden took office. He took office and he changed the policies and he ordered the Border Patrol to stand down on stopping people crossing. And here they all come. They're sending out messages. They're sending apps globally for people to come here. Come on, we'll take care of you. We'll give you plane tickets. We'll give you gift cards. We'll give you a damn phone. We'll put you up. We'll find you housing. We'll give you a work permit. They're not stopping anybody. They're not stopping anybody. Okay? And he's claiming that he knew this long before he took office and still did things to make it worse. And his solution, and it quotes right here also, Biden did not directly answer whether his policies have contributed to the crisis or if the administration would fight Mayorkas' impeachment in court. Of course, he's not going to admit that his policies made it worse. Why would he do that? But he wants show me what money, Biden. What money? What money are you trying to get that will solve this problem? Why do they always want more damn money? And That Life, but not as we know it. He says, love the cat. Good evening. Where are you, That Life? And Gary Smith has made it. Glad you could pop in here today as we see. And they're talking, I guess you're talking about Dusty sitting in the corner back there. Now you can see her. Dusty's in the corner. I got two more sitting on boxes. That's Daniel and Uncle sitting over there, keeping me company for the time being. Helter says the GOP keeps rejecting border security. They don't want the issue addressed. They want to be mad and afraid about it. Well, part of the problem also is that the border security package that has been offered by the current administration is tied to a massive $68 billion package going to the Ukraine. So the argument is, and I kind of agree with it, you want to give $68 billion to the Ukraine in order for us to get, what is it, 1.8 or $2 billion for the border. Plus, you want to put a set of precedents by putting a limit, because if I remember correctly, they want to put a cap. Well, we'll put a cap of 1 million people a year. All right, because 3 million came across the border this year, I think. I read that somewhere. But okay, you put a cap of 1 million. You've still set a precedence of 1 million, and that'll be really hard to undo. I wouldn't sign that either. And That's Life said, still here in mad old Scotland. And Dragon says it's been an on and off issue for decades, and frankly, it's our fault for allowing the corporate interest to influence our lawmakers into pushing terrible policies. Indeed. And while we're on the subject of questioning how policies are being handled, here this is again, and this is something we've talked about a few times, and this is another State of the Union article. If it ever pops up, there we go. Senator Blackburn questions veteran funding diverted to migrants. It's been revealed now, of course, and we talked about this a couple of weeks back. There she is, but that's Blackburn. That indeed the VA is funding medical resources for illegal immigrants under the current administration. Her question now, and I'm sure it'll reveal it in the article, is how much? How much is this costing taxpayers? How much are you taking away from actual U.S. veterans that the VA is supposed to be helping? So here we go. Senator Marsha Blackburn. Marsha. It's never about Jan. It's always Marsha. Is pressing President Joe Biden's administration to disclose the amount of taxpayer money diverted from veterans to provide health care services to recently arrived illegal aliens. Thank you for not calling it migrants. Blackburn's letter to VA Security, Dennis McDonough, seeks details on funding allocation and the impact on veterans' health care. I'd like to know that myself. She highlighted reports of significant taxpayers' funds being used for illegal immigrants, medical expenses, while veterans face long waiting times for claims processing. How much funding has the VA allocated specifically for the medical care or veterans' benefits, including claims processing for illegal immigrants, including but not limited to those in ICE detention facilities or those who were deported, Blackburn wrote. I think that's a legitimate question. Blackburn criticizes the VA for seemingly prioritizing illegal immigrants over veterans and calls for an immediate stop to resource allocation for illegal immigrants' care and claims. Additionally, she sought information on specific directives from the Biden administration and the legality of transferring services from veterans to illegal aliens. Notably, a bill has been introduced to block the VA from using its resources to provide healthcare services to illegal aliens, with several representatives and senators as co-sponsors. That is something that never should have happened in the first place. That never should have happened. Never should have happened. And anybody who has ever served in this country, or the families of anyone who has ever served in this country, should be outraged about that fact. Those services are supposed to be exclusively for veterans. And although there are many veterans who cheat the system, we know this, the majority of them earned it. They earned it. Monkey says some of the politicians want to get something funded down there for the border, but it's always going to be tied with sending a shit ton to Ukraine and Israel, majority of which is Ukraine still. Even what Israel was getting paled in comparison to what was on the Ukraine for that bill. Urban says theft by any means necessary. Monkey says that's spitting in veterans' faces. And prioritizing migrants over the vets. And Donna says vax and tax Americans, give it all away to lawmakers and breakers. And All People says it's not our fault for anything. Some of us have spent decades and generations fighting against what's now occurring. Please resist the CIA-inspired urge to engage, blaming the targets. But yeah, again, if you are a veteran, if you are a veteran or you're a family of a veteran, you should be outraged by that, because again, and like I said, there are those who cheat the system. I know there's guys out there pretending to have PTSD so they can get a check, okay, faking it so they can get disability. Meanwhile, you've got a lot of other people that earned it. Things happened to them while they were in the military. They had accidents, they had injuries, they were harmed in the line of duty. They were harmed inadvertently because of a shot they took or because they were exposed to a chemical. You know this happens. They deserve the right to be able to go to the hospital or to go to the doctor and not be hindered and you're going to give that away to a foreigner who snuck into the country. It's insulting. It's absolutely insulting. As Lawrence Fishburne said in Mission Impossible, one of them, 3 or 4, I will bleed on the flag to make sure those stripes stay red. Gary Smith says, well, if you have a system, you will always have cheaters. Exactly. There's always those. There's always those. And I don't know if you saw my short on the American flag earlier, because we changed it out. I've got it sitting right here. The Old Glory. This is the real deal. You can see how faded it is and tattered it is. I did a short with it. Poor thing. Look at this. But this flag is more than 50 years old. And we even had it hanging out in front of the house for a while. And we changed it out recently because it's taken quite a beating. It's taken quite a beating. And my wife actually had a hard time finding a halfway decent flag to replace it. A quality flag, one made with thick material that had actual stitching and actual sewn in stars and all the rest of it. But I'm not getting rid of this flag, and she doesn't want to either. She doesn't want to either. This flag comes from an era where it damn well meant something. And we're keeping it. We are keeping it. I know I didn't fold it right, but, I don't have time. I'll do it later. Monkey says their sister's husband has flat foot, and the VA found out after he left the Marines. He now gets a $6,000 check a month for the rest of his life. Yeah, if you can demonstrate that it happened while you were in the military. And Prime Mover says our country has taken more of a beating than that flag. Yeah, it has. But she's had a hard time finding a decent one. Every flag is like this nylon sheet with a flag printed on it. And that's all she could find anywhere. And she tracked one down and ordered it, and it looks nice. It's solid and thick and stitched and really well made. And so we hung that outside. And this one will just keep in the house. And for those of you who are not in the know, the proper way to dispose of this is on a funeral pyre. You build a very, very strong fire, properly fold the flag up, and place it into it. The fire should be blazing and hot enough that the flag is consumed very quickly. And then you have either a moment of silence or you say the Pledge of Allegiance. And Monkey says, which he did get proven with the surgeries he had to get done on it, so it was easy for him from there. Yeah, absolutely. As we bounce around here, and we may as well bounce all the way to Canada. You want to see something about Canada? You'll get a kick out of this for all the good it'll do. And this is the Associated Press. Judge says Canada's use of Emergencies Act to quell truckers' protests over C virus was unreasonable. Too little, too late. Too little, too late. So a Canadian judge has ruled that the government's use of the Emergencies Act to quell weeks of protests by truckers and others angry over C virus restrictions in 2022 was unreasonable and unconstitutional. Is anything going to be done about it? Just breaking right into the article there. Is it going to be followed up on? Is Trudeau going to be brought up on charges? Seriously. Up to thousands of protesters clogged the streets of the capital of Ottawa and besieged Parliament Hill, demonstrating against vaccine mandates for truckers and other precautions, and condemning Prime Minister Trudeau's Liberal government. The act allowed authorities to declare certain areas as no-go zones. It also allowed police to freeze truckers' personal and corporate bank accounts and compel tow truck companies to haul away vehicles. And by compel, they mean coerce, because the tow truck companies were threatened. They were not willing to tow those trucks. They had no choice. Members of the self-styled Freedom Convoy also blockaded U.S.-Canada border crossings in protest. Police arrested 11 people at the blockaded crossing at Codas, Alberta. opposite Montana after learning of a cache of guns and ammunitions. I didn't hear about that. In the decision released Tuesday, federal court justice Richard Mosley said that the invocation of the Emergencies Act led to the infringement of constitutional rights. They knew that before they did it. They knew that before they did it, and it still happened, and nothing will be done about it now. Okay, you said it was unconstitutional. So now what? Quote, I conclude that there was no national emergency justifying the invocation of the Emergencies Act, and the decision to do so was therefore unreasonable, Mosley wrote. Deputy Prime Minister Chrystia Freeland said that the government will appeal. Freeland said it was a hard decision to invoke the act, yeah, I bet, but called the protests a serious threat to public safety, national security, and Canada's economic security. Yeah, that's what a protest is supposed to do, sweetheart. I don't think it was a threat to your security because they weren't violent. There was no violence as far as I know, right? And as some of you are in Canada, you can tell me a threat to your and not a threat. It was not a threat, in my opinion, to public safety or national security, which is why it was unconstitutional to invoke the act. It was a threat to Canada's economy, but that was the only way they could get your attention. And look what you did to these people. And that demonstrates the fact that those truckers did that and that they had the full support of the people in those communities, that you're doing your governing completely wrong. When you've got that many people, you've got that many citizens pushing against you, and look how you treat them. You're not there for your citizens. You're not trying to help these people. Quote again, I don't want to minimize the gravity of the actions we took, neither do I want to minimize the gravity of the threats Canada faced, Freeland said. Oh my God, the only thing that was threatened, sweetheart, was your job. The Canadian Civil Liberties Association and several other groups and individuals argued in court that Ottawa ushered in the emergencies measure without sound grounds. The government contended the steps it took were targeted, proportional, time-limited, and compliant with Canada's Charter of Rights and Freedoms. If that was true, you wouldn't be in court. Wow, she's got a lot of foundation on. Look at the difference between the color of her face and the color of her neck and chest. Good Lord, lady, you wearing enough makeup? I'm sorry, I just got distracted by that. I don't like makeup. I'm not a fan of makeup. I think it makes women look ridiculous. Excuse me. As I catch up with some of these comments. Monkey says, looks like Trudeau is following his footsteps of Castro, except he's doing it under Emergencies Acts. Excuse me. And Urban says, did you see the UFC fight in Toronto where 20,000 Canadians chanted F Trudeau? No, I did not see that. And Semper Fi has joined us. Glad you could make it here today. Dragon says, not very helpful at this point. Is it, other than they get to pat themselves on the back for doing the right thing when it's easy instead of when it was hard? And Dragon says, not very helpful at this point. Is it? Oh, it's on there twice. Okay. And Urban says, the only violence I witnessed was from the police, the RCMP, and other uniforms that no one seemed to recognize. And All People says that Justin Trudeau is out to destroy Canada, just like his real poppy, Fidel Castro. And Helter says, liars and criminals will never admit to their own guilt. The Canadian government is so utterly out of touch that it is painful. Oh, they know what they're doing. And Gary Smith said Trudeau's dad invoked the War Measures Act to deal with bomb-wielding terrorists, so Trudeau wanted to invoke it too. He just needed an excuse. Didn't matter if it was a threat. And Cruising says, I'm minding my own business, grading papers, and suddenly, OMG, lady, you got on enough makeup, and I've completely lost every train of thought in my head. I couldn't help it. And All People says, does Miss Coffee Talk Prepper University like makeup? Never wears it. She doesn't wear makeup. She does not wear wigs or extensions. You know, again, for those of you who do not know, she is black. and a lot of black women wear wigs and hair extensions. She doesn't do that. And she does not wear makeup. She doesn't do any of that stuff. No big, ridiculous acrylic nails. None of that. None of that. And, you know, she's very feminine without it. All that stuff is just a load of crap. I don't know very many men who do like that kind of stuff. It's just impractical. It's kind of unattractive. The big fake long eyelashes and all the makeup that you can't touch. I need 3 hours to put my face on in the morning. You don't know what I really look like. Acrylic nails that are 4 inches long. Stuff's ridiculous. A lot of guys don't like that. So I question, what do women put it on for? I don't get it. I don't get it. But, you know, we're going to jump out of Canada now. All the way to the UK. And this is from Evening Standard. Evening Standard. Who's here from the UK today? Calls for zombie knives, machetes, and other weapons of war to be banned. And then they show a guy with a steak knife. Zombie knives, machetes, and other weapons of war would be banned in a bid to protect youngsters under a proposed law tabled in the House of Commons. Labour MP Helen Hayes said knife crime has an absolutely devastating impact on families and communities in her constituency of Dulwich and West Norwood. Ms. Hayes said her offensive weapons bill would... What's an offensive weapon? Anything that you're attacked with? So if I attack you with my belt, it's an offensive weapon. Anyways, would extend to all zombie knives, Rambo-style knives, machetes, and ninja swords, and cover the sale, marketing, and possession of these weapons. And this is total bullshit, and I'll tell you why in a minute. She added that a licensing scheme with rigorous age verification could be set up to approve legitimate purchases. What rigorous age verification? All you have to do is look at an ID. Ms. Hayes was allowed to introduce her bill to the Commons on Tuesday and asked for it to be considered further at second reading on February 23rd. The government put forward plans to ban some zombie-style knives. And what they're talking about primarily is, like, you know, the big fancy, like, cosplaying looking knives. And asked for it to be considered. Oh, I read that. In August of last year, but Ms. Hayes said that this is insufficient because the ban does not cover all offensive weapons such as swords. Now, why this is absolutely stupid. One more paragraph real quick. Speaking in the Commons, Ms. Hayes said knife crime has an absolutely devastating impact on local communities as well as families. It takes away any sense of safety and security, makes young people afraid and traumatized, acts as a barrier to self-belief, aspiration, and engagement in education and learning. Never mind the fact that what you are targeting primarily is decorative knives and swords, which are useless. Most of them are made in a way that can't even be sharpened. Okay? This is what you're trying to target. Number two, most of the people running around stabbing everybody are your youth that you claim are afraid. And third, they're using steak knives. Am I wrong? Anyone in the UK, help me out here. Steak knives, right? They're using kitchen knives. Prime Mover says the tattoo eyebrows are the word. Yeah, I've seen a lot of that too. And Savage Lee says a Donald Duck. I've seen one before. Semper Fi says only the creepers like the woman that will wear all that fake crap. The women have some issues and the creepers use that to take advantage of them. All People says most of the blacks I've seen with lots of makeup, wigs, and fake nails are migrants. The original blacks really, if ever, are spotted with those things. And Shozan says basically they want to ban all weapons. Game on, game on government. Exactly. And Savage Lee says I kept a cavalry saber just in case. Gary Smith says they won't stop disarming us even when they get us down to bare fists. Well, they can put mitts on you like they put in jail. If you're dangerous and they're afraid you might grab or scratch somebody, they have those mitts with the locking cuff, and it looks like a big oven mitt. Helter says the U.S. government wants everyone defenseless and vulnerable as possible for the next criminal attacker who can always get any weapon, no matter what the law is that's in place. And Semper says 99% of knife crime is committed by illegals. The UK needs to stop allowing them into the country. Yeah, there's a lot of that too. I should have emphasized on that a lot of illegal immigrants, especially from the Middle East, will do that. Prime Mover says as a knife collector, he's offended. And All People says the UK is being destroyed by the crime and welfare dependence of the migration invasion. More than 60% of Londoners now hail from the quickly reproducing migrant homes. And Spectre is joining us here today. Glad you could make it. Dragon says they should ban kitchen knives, broken glass, metal, and wrenches. And you know what it reminds me of? And I forget where this story is from. I want to say this is from China, okay? And it's the village knife. I think it's if you've heard this, correct me if I'm wrong. This is an actual historical account, and villages in a certain province were required to have a village knife so that no one would have a knife. They would have a knife that was like on a platform, like, you know, the village well, but it was a stone platform with a chain on it. And if anyone needed to use the knife, they would have to get in a line at the village knife and use it and then go back about their business, so that no one would be able to own an edged weapon and therefore would not be a threat to the local government. I want to say it was an ancient Chinese practice, but I could be off on that. And Shozan says they have an actual good steel katana, not mall stainless steel. Yeah, but you know, most of those decorative swords and like zombie apocalypse knives and all that stuff, it's garbage. You know what I mean? And Urban says the end game is banning citizens. History shows this clearly. Yeah, because we've seen this before. And it's ridiculous. You're gonna ban knives. Yeah. They took away your guns. I know you can still technically get a firearm in England, but it is very difficult. And they're trying to take that away as well, trying to take away any semblance of self-defense whatsoever. And as was pointed out, I said a lot of the youth are the ones doing the stabbings, you know, young people in gangs and stuff like that. But as was pointed out again, a lot of this is also illegal immigrants, foreigners, that's a common practice where they come from anyways. Run around and stab somebody up. And Gary Smith says impact weapons can be just as dangerous. Indeed, they can be extremely dangerous. You can kill somebody with a glass ashtray if you know what you're doing. Don't ask me how I know that. Anyways, as we bounce around again, we're going to go. Where are we going? We're going to North Carolina. We're going to North Carolina here in a moment. One more here. Urban says UK seems even more repressive than Canada in that respect. Oh, give Canada a chance. They're catching up. Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and the United Kingdom, they have this evil plan that they're going to use to turn you into Eastern Bloc European country any minute now, if it doesn't already feel like that. Now, here's an article you're not going to see readily in the news stream, and this is from the DC Weekly. I had to go all the way out to the DC Weekly. Spectre says soon you'll have to register your baseball bat. Yeah, I know. Do you have official authorization to have possession of that baseball bat? Are you on a little league team? Do you play softball? You'll need a license. Here we go. Asheville, and Asheville is in North Carolina. Asheville's investment in electric buses faces setbacks as maintenance issues persist. Now, North Carolina has been trying to push the electric bus agenda for like coming on 6 years now. They have not ever been able to get it to work. And that's where this article is going. Asheville, North Carolina, the city of Asheville, North Carolina, is facing challenges with its investment in electric buses as maintenance issues continue to plague the fleet. Out of the 5 electric buses purchased in 2018, 3 are currently out of commission due to a combination of software issues and mechanical problems. Furthermore, 1 bus has a broken door since July, and the replacement is unavailable due to the bankruptcy of the bus's manufacturer, Proterra. That's perfect. According to Asheville's interim transportation director, Jessica Morris, the city has been unable to obtain new doors as there is no third party that manufactures them. The recent bankruptcy of Proterra has left their operation shut down, leaving existing bus owners uncertain about when they can expect parts and services to become available. How about never? This situation has led to an indefinite pause in Asheville's investment in any electric technology until they can ensure the reliability and functionality of the products they acquire. The setbacks faced by Asheville, it is Asheville. I thought I mispronounced it, are not only causing financial losses, but also increasing wear and tear on the remaining buses in the fleet. Each electric bus costs the city a minimum of $616,000. And again, just like with the school buses, that is 3 times the expense of a diesel bus. 3 times the cost of a diesel bus, with an additional $200,000 spent on installing the proper chargers and $118,000 annually for leasing batteries. Furthermore, the city incurs $45,500 annually in electric costs each year to charge those buses, alongside maintenance costs which exceed $250,000 a year. The 2 electric buses that are still operational have limited range and are only able to travel approximately 78 miles in the winter before they need to be recharged, which takes several hours. The limitation further adds to the challenges faced by Asheville's transit system. And keep in mind, we're talking North Carolina. How cold do you think it is in the winter that the buses are shutting down? I love reading these kinds of articles that demonstrate the failure of this system that they're trying to force on us. Dragon says there's this thing called a trolley bus. Asheville, they've been used in cities for over a century now. Works perfectly. Yeah, they have that in where I grew up in Boston. The trolleys, the Green Line. If you look up the MTA Green Line, Mass Transit Authority, the Green Line is a trolley that runs on and it's the wires, they hang. There's a grid line over the tracks, and it has the arm that comes up and maintains the contact, so that there's no third rail out in the public domain, because it weaves in and out of traffic. So yeah, I mean, that's all you got to do. You really want to do it, you could put up a trolley rail system. And I've even seen in Watertown, Massachusetts, used to do this. I don't know if they still have this in Watertown, but they had converted buses, regular street buses, to have that arm, to use the old existing trolley power lines. So they removed the tracks and just have the bus follow the route perfectly underneath the contact lines. So they're driving essentially an electric bus. And that was in the 70s and 80s. It can be done instead of being stupid about it. But look at those expenses. $616,000 a piece at the base price. Okay, which means that basically they spent more than that. 3 times the cost of a diesel bus. $200,000 installing the charges. $118,000 a year for the batteries. $45,500 a year in charging costs. I bet you the diesel fuel wouldn't have cost that much. And then $250,000 a year in maintenance, so that they can say, oh, we're progressive, we have electric buses. Jesus, excuse me. Semper says these electric vehicles need to be banned. They're useless, cost way too much, weigh ridiculous amounts, and the batteries are a hazard. Absolutely suck in cold weather. Can you imagine if that bus caught fire while people were on it? You've seen, I'm sure, videos of EV vehicle fires. The thing, it's like an incendiary device. It goes up way too fast for anybody to get the hell out of that bus in an emergency. I can't imagine. Gary Smith says at least their electric snowplows work. Oh, wait. Yeah, we did that article a few weeks back. New York had to warehouse all of their electric snowplows because they don't work. Monkey says battery technology needs to improve significantly with the cold before they can even massively start being shilled. And Helter says you don't have to be an expert to understand this. Anyone with average intelligence would reach the conclusion that EVs are a bad proposition, and yet it totally escapes many politicians. Oh, they know it doesn't work, but they have an agenda. They have an agenda. So they're going to force it on us. I've pointed it out many times. Honestly, you think AOC is really that dumb? You think Nancy Pelosi is really that dumb? Or Waters, is that her name? Maxine Waters is really that dumb? These people know what they're doing. They know exactly what they're doing. They're doing what they're paid to do. And that's hem us up. Monkey says, till then, its battery's going to suffer and break permanently. As I catch up a few more comments here. Spectre says, between a freeze last week and the 3-foot river that forms right in front of the gate out here in the country's electrical cars will not fly out here. Yeah, I'd love to see that in floodwater. Urban says, who owns the bankrupt manufacturer and who owns the service contractors? That is a great question. That I'm not sure about. I'm not sure who owns it. And Henry says, Ford announced they're pulling back on the electric truck. Yeah, we read that article yesterday. Their Ford F-150 Lightning series is the electric pickup truck, which is useless. It weighs more than anything you can haul in it. But they've cut the production in half because they're just not selling. They're just not selling. And again, they boasted of having sold 24,000 last year, but those 24,000 were pushed on dealerships. They're still sitting there. People aren't buying them. Sold only counts from factory to dealership when you take the numbers that way. Gary Smith says they aren't dumb, they're evil. Exactly. Because they're willing to sell people out so that they can get some money, some recognition, some authority, whatever it is that they're after. Your life and your livelihood's not as important as whatever it is that they're seeking to gain, even though they took a job where they're supposed to be taking care of their constituents and they're not doing the job. As I've said it 100 times, most people, I think they would be content if they had a politician. The politician doesn't need to be the first one to do this and the greatest one to do that. Just do the damn job. Do the job that you were hired to do. And I think people will be happy enough just with that. Monkey says you can even read Energizer's study on batteries when it comes to room temperature, very hot condition, and very cold condition, and you can see the difference. Inspector says when you move out of the country, there are a few downsides like heavy rain and you get a river right in front of your gate. And Rave Boy says, have you seen the videos of diesel generators used to recharge electric buses? Yes, I have. I have seen. I'm sure some of you have probably seen that, where they bring the van out and there's a diesel generator in the back of the van. Is that the one you're talking about? And they have to use that to charge them up. And Urban says it weighs more than anything you could haul in it. Is this upside down world? In this upside down world, we may see this on their marketing campaigns yet. That's just the truth of it. How much do you think you can haul in that truck before it burns out? You don't, before it burns out. And Monkey says, weirdly enough, you don't hear enough on hydrogen cars. There's a reason for that. It would be way too expensive. Because now you're talking about having to use compressed liquid hydrogen. And you can't just pull it out of water like people think you can. We can pour water in it, it'll separate the hydrogen in the engine and whatever. That doesn't work. you can burn hydrogen, but that means filling and fueling compressed liquid hydrogen tanks, which one are extremely cold. Those are, you know, you're talking about something that's more than 300 degrees below zero Fahrenheit. And as a compressed gas in a vehicle is very dangerous. If it was punctured, blammo, it won't be a fireball, but you'll blow the whole car apart and freeze the passengers at the same time. It's a bad idea. That's why nobody ever really wanted to go in that direction with it. And now, of all things, I'm going to pick on Will Farrell. Will Farrell pissed me off today. And this is from the Western Journal. Will Farrell goes fully woke and publishes transmogrification in a new film. And real quick here, Semper Fi says, I'm a volunteer firefighter. Those EV batteries are an absolute nightmare to extinguish. Well, you really can't, even if you have the Halon trucks where you spray the foam, right? You can't really put it out. All you can do is contain it until it burns itself out, if I remember correctly. And you know, if you're a firefighter, you can tell me if I'm wrong there. So Will Farrell, it says, it appears that woke elitists have constructed yet another platform from which to harangue the masses in what might have passed for a satire as recently as 10 years ago. Establishment media movie reviewers have waxed rhapsodic over Will and Harper, a new documentary in which actor Will Farrell chronicled a cross-country road trip with longtime friend Harper Steele, a man who recently decided to begin masquerading as a transmogrified woman. The documentary premiered at the Sundance Film Festival in Park City, Utah on Monday. I'm sure they all had a big orgasm over it too. According to entertainment reporter Patrick Ryan of USA Today, the 63-year-old Steele came out as a transmogrified woman in an email to family and friends in 2022. For decades prior to that coming out moment, Steele had maintained a close friendship with Farrell. They met in the mid-90s on NBC's Saturday Night Live, where Steele worked as a comedy writer. Big deal. My beef with this is that Will Farrell, he's just another Hollywood shill. He's not even that good. He's not even that funny. He's done some good films. Okay, fair enough. Will Farrell does not have a big acting range, all right? He's not going to do Shakespeare tomorrow. He has different settings of Will Farrell. Do you want Will Farrell on 2 or do you want him on 9? And you turn that dial. Jack Black is the same way. You know, there's a few actors out there. It's like, how much Jack Black do you want? Let's turn the dial. And Jack Black is another shill too. He'll take anything, any weeping, sopping wet, disgusting part you want them to do. They will crawl in the mud for it and beg you for it and thank you for the opportunity. And Will Farrell is like that. He, like I said, he's had some funny films. Elf is okay. Talladega Nights is okay. You get the idea. Step Brothers comes to mind. But he's one of these like bleeding heart, weeping, far left, disgusting Hollywood liberals that will do anything. And here he is again. And it just disturbs me to see people like this in Hollywood. And I brought out, I mentioned Jack Black already. Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, is like that. He'll do anything. I mean, come on. He was in Tooth Fairy. He wore a tutu in a movie and little fairy wings. Give me a break. Dragon says, another best example of please don't ever take any Hollywood actor, actress serious. They're just a bunch of professional liars. Henry says, another Hollywood weirdo trying to stay relevant by virtue signaling. Yeah, and he'll do anything you throw his way, he'll do it. That's what makes me sick. Urban says, actors act, so whose script are they acting? We all know what happened to the Snow White actress. Yeah, well, I think they ended up having to bury that. Disney, I don't think that's going to happen now that it's been exposed. People destroyed it before it even got off the ground. Helter says, once a comedian, always a comedian. The guy can't be taken seriously. And Merv says, Will does have a woman's mouth. Oh, no. And Urban says, my least favorite right now is Susan Sarandon with her atrocious comments about Middle East issues. Yeah, a lot of these people, it's sickening. It's absolutely sickening. They have no ethical guidelines, no moral compass. They will do anything for the check. I can still see him now in the commercial during the C virus pandemic singing what was the song? That John Lennon song that's taken way out of context every time. Somebody knows, they'll tell me in the comment section. I'm drawing a blank. Shozan says he and Kevin Hart. Yeah, Kevin Hart's another one. Pecked each other in a movie. From WWF The Rock to Smooching Men, the ritual is complete. Yeah. Thank you, Cruising Imagine. Singing Imagine to make us feel like we're all together in this during the C virus. Him and a bunch of other celebrities. Imagine all the people. Shut up. Gonna be sick. Yeah, and Puck U says Imagine also. Yeah, everybody's saying Imagine. I couldn't think of it. Monkey says even Jon Stewart came back to temporary host only during the 2024 election. And and Brian made a donation to the channel, made a $10 donation to the channel. Thank you, Brian. Was it my singing? Was it my singing? Much appreciated, Brian. Thank you. The felines, very much appreciated. They're all asleep now, so they can't give you a standing ovation. Unfortunately, Dusty is still in the chair right there for those of you who can see. Yeah, and Urban says, imagine all the people. Shut up. I almost spit out my coffee. Yeah, and it's taken out of context anyways. I mean, they're trying to push a concept from, and not that John Lennon was a nut anyway. That guy was crazy, quite frankly. But that it means we shouldn't have religion. We shouldn't have this. We shouldn't have that. I don't trust it. And Puck, and I'm pronouncing it Puck on purpose. I know how it's spelled. It says, how about that nut Howard Stern? Howard Stern is a piece of crap. Howard Stern is a shill too. I mean, the shock jock. I'll say anything. I'll say anything. You can't tell me what to say. Okay, look at him. Now that he made all the money he can make, look at him. Where did that attitude go? Where did that attitude go? It was all an act. It was an act to keep him on the air. And I've referred to that. Gary Smith says, wasn't Imagine really a pro-communist song? Not necessarily. If you recall, there was another song that Lennon sings, and I can't think of the name of that one either because I'm going on and on here and I'm getting buried in my thoughts, where he says, if you're talking about Chairman Mao, we don't want to hear that. I'll have to look it up. But yeah, Howard Stern is another one. The shock jock, I'll say anything. And I revert sometimes to, it was a talk show that he was on in the late 80s. And he said that he knows that more than half of his audience, or half of his audience anyways, was people that were waiting to hear him say the one thing too much that caused him to lose his job, that most people that were listening to him didn't like him anyways. And that's why he does it, because it keeps people listening, even when they don't like him. So it was all an act. It's always been an act. Shock jock my ass. Guy's a fraud. And now that the winds have changed and his position is cemented, it's written in stone. Now he's like this pussified, bleeding heart liberal that will crawl all over the place. And Puck says he lost his mind over the unvaccinated. Yeah, so much for being tough and not scared of anything, right? I can't remember the name of that other song that he sings, that where he says he doesn't want to hear it if you're talking about Chairman Mao, because that's a buck against communism. But keep in mind, this is a guy that I think Yoko Ono in an interview said that she couldn't even go to the bathroom. He would go in the bathroom with her and stand there and watch her to make sure no one talked to her. Guy was crazy. Anyways, we're at the top of the hour, so I'm going to go ahead and start wrapping things up. And Urban says, PBHL, Pussified Bleeding Heart Liberal, a new entry in the online dictionary. Thank you. And Gary Smith said revolution, but he was back in the Beatles set and may have been counter-influenced. Was it revolution? I think it is. Thank you. I think it is. I think it is revolution. Thank you. But anyways, I'll go ahead and start wrapping things up again. You are listening and or watching Coffee Talk, and you can find me on YouTube at Coffee Talk Live or at Prepper University. Please do look for me there. I can always use the subscriptions. Not that you'll ever get a notification, but because YouTube hates me, but I sure do appreciate it. And at Coffee Talk Chat on X, formerly known as Twitter, and fistfulofradio.com, podcasting out of Atlanta, Monday through Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and Friday at noon. Special thanks, of course, to Brian for making a donation to the channel today. Very much appreciated, Brian. And thanks to everyone else who was able to join us here. Hope you got something out of the conversation. And please do catch us again tomorrow.